The iPhone 5C starts at $99 with a 2-year contract. That's for the 16-gigabyte phone. The 32-gigabyte phone, $199 with a 2-year contract. What do you make of those prices?
Those are in line with what I think most people were expecting. The more interesting question will be, well, what the unsubsidized price will be in markets like China, because that's been the holdup before. Is it going to come in under $300, which I think had been sort of the hurdle that most people have been looking at. So it sounds like it'll be close.
Corey?
Well, look, this is really important because what this suggests is going to be offered in the U.S., and that was an open question. Because when they introduce a lower-cost iPhone, it's got to be lower enough cost that it's not a cannibalization. If the price is really close to their high-end phone, there's a question of cannibalization. So what's the feature set is interesting. What's the price point maybe more interesting. Now, this suggests that the full-fledged top-of-the-line iPhone might have a better chip and an even better camera. They're saying the camera is going to be 8 megapixels, which is equal to the camera on the iPhone 5 and one of the best loved features of the iPhone 5.
Right. We've heard that the iPhone 5S may have, if it's called the 5S, may have an A7 processor, which would be faster than the current one, the A6.
And I also think the timing of them to come out with this so early in the press conference, we'll see what that means for the press conference. They usually save the best for last in their press conferences. Maybe this will be a shorter one. Maybe there's more to come.
And Apple's lead designer, Jonathan Ive, joining the event via screen, talking about the iPhone 5C. He calls it a distillation of what people love about the iPhone 5 and the experience of the iPhone 5.
And we do this thing regularly. We take the new phone and we go down to our friends at IHS Supply and tear apart the phone and look at the componentry. And it's really hard for them to get lower in price and offer the same feature set. Think about the difficulty of them, of all these devices, because their software requires a lot of specialized hardware. And so it's difficult for them to lower the price. Going to a plastic screen instead of a metal screen maybe helps a little bit, but every single penny counts in the making of these phones.
Now, John, I want to get back to you there at Cupertino headquarters. You know, what do you make of this new family of iPhones? What does this mean for Apple in countries like China and in emerging markets?
Well, the next part of this story would likely be, does Apple have a deal ready to go with China Mobile, the largest carrier in China, which has more than 740 million subscribers? There's been a lot of buzz about that happening soon. Bloomberg News has reported on that. And the math would suggest that if Apple wants to sell a lot of phones in China through China Mobile, that could happen very quickly. To Corey's point about what exactly goes into this lower-priced phone, you know, there's been a lot of speculation about how the component costs potentially can come down to make it just as profitable, if not a more profitable device for the company. Some analysts have suggested maybe they can bring down the component price costs by about 65%, which seems like a massive number. But, you know, again, going back to the immediate market that would be with, assuming there is a deal with China Mobile coming, close to 150 million of those 740 million plus subscribers who are using 3G devices, who are using high-end smartphones, and that's the math on this story. And all of a sudden, you know, you're going to see on Wall Street the analysts pull out their pens and start to crunch the numbers on what kind of iPhone overall numbers we could see heading into the holiday period. And as we said at the top of the show, this is a product that represents at least 50% of the overall revenue for Apple right now. So this is a very stock market focused story at the end of the day.
Emily, can I make a related point? Yeah,
sure.
Just interesting on the chip question. This is going to get really geeky now, so, you know, indulge me for a second. But I mean,
go into the weeds,
Paul.
Go
like
deep
that.
into
Geeky.
the weeds.
Sure. So the early indications, the early discussion was that the processor bump going from the 5 to the 5S, which is apparently coming up later in this call or in this announcement, will only see a performance improvement on the order of 20 or 30%. So it'll be interesting to see if that's corroborated, because from the standpoint of 2 points, from the standpoint of the average user, that's invisible. People won't see that kind of performance improvement in their everyday use of the phone. So that's noteworthy, because you can't offer that then to people as a big performance improvement. And 2, it's considerably less than the performance improvement in going from the 4 to the 4S. So it raises 2 interesting questions. One, is Apple having architectural issues with its chips where it can't get the same performance ramp out of them that it did in the past? Or 2, is it holding back a much faster version of the chip for some kind of iPhone 6 class product later this year or early next?